So, what happens when foreign policy gets laid out in, a single public statement? Today, we're going to deconstruct a really powerful ultimatum attributed to former President Donald Trump regarding Nigeria. We're going to pull it apart piece by piece to see exactly what was on the table, what was being threatened, and how this whole thing was structured.
Okay, boom. Right out of the gate, we get this incredibly stark condition. It's basically a classic if this then that, but we're talking about international relations here on a global scale. And the language, man, it's crystal clear. If this one thing doesn't happen, the aid from the US, it's gone, like immediately.
All right, so where did this even come from? What's the bigger picture here? Let's dig into that.
So get this. This wasn't some stuffy, formal diplomatic message. Nope. The source says it was a social media post out there for everyone to see. And that's a huge deal, right? The platform choice is all about getting maximum eyes on it. And the focus is also super, super sharp. It's all about US policy and Nigeria, and it's all triggered by one specific thing, the violence against Christians.
But wait, there's more. Cutting off the money? That was just step one. The statement then takes this huge turn, and suddenly we're not just talking about financial pressure anymore. Now we're talking about military force. And this isn't just, empty threats. It actually mentions telling the Department of Defense to get ready. That is a massive escalation.
Okay, so let's really get into the core of this thing, the ultimatum itself. Because how it's put together, well, that tells us pretty much everything we need to know about its purpose and its power. An ultimatum, it's basically a my way or the highway kind of deal, right? It's a final demand, and if you say no, there are serious consequences. And that is a perfect description of what we're looking at here. There's no talk of negotiation, no back and forth. It's just a straight-up choice with some really severe results.
The whole thing really hinges on that tiny little word, if. That's the linchpin. It's the trigger for the entire threat. The money getting cut off, the military getting ready. All of it is presented as a direct result that only happens if the Nigerian government doesn't do what's being asked. And the statement is super specific about what that if is. So let's ask the question, what is the exact condition that would kick all of these US actions into gear? And there it is. That's the trigger. It's not vague at all, is it? It's laser focused on stopping the killing of Christians. According to the source, that one issue is the only reason given for everything that's being threatened to follow. Okay, so we know the trigger. Now what about the consequences? Because this isn't just one single threat, it's actually a layered response, and it's designed to ramp up. You can see it set up in stages. It kicks off with a big economic hit, cutting off all aid, and then it raises the possibility of a military strike. It's like a 1-2 punch, first financial, then physical.
And check out the wording here, because this is a really important detail. The threat about the money is definite. It says aid will be cut. But the military action, that's conditional. It says action may be taken. That little difference leaves a lot of wiggle room. Is it a sure thing, or is it more of a strategic warning? Kind of makes you wonder.
All right, let's talk about that potential military action. The words used to describe it are, well, they're clearly chosen to be very powerful and very specific.
Yeah, this phrasing is all about making an impact. Swift, dangerous, and decisive. Those aren't just adjectives thrown in there for no reason. They're meant to paint a really clear picture of a military response that's overwhelming and, frankly, unstoppable. So let's break that down, right? Swift, that means fast, maybe with no warning. Dangerous, that's a pretty open admission of the risk and the potential cost. And decisive, that suggests this isn't about a long engagement. It's about ending things quickly, on US terms. You put those three together and you've got a really potent psychological warning.
And this is key. The statement gives its own reason for all this. It's not framed as, punishing the country of Nigeria. Instead, it's presented as a very targeted counterterrorism mission. It creates a direct line from the military threat all the way back to the start, to eliminating the groups blamed for the violence against Christians.
Now, what's really interesting is that the same source material also brings up Venezuela, but the tone is totally different. For Venezuela, it's this kind of general ready-to-fight stance. But for Nigeria, it's this very specific, conditional threat tied to that one single issue. It really shows a different approach, right? Different rhetorical tools for different situations. So after breaking all of this down, we're left with a pretty big question. When foreign policy looks like this, when it's a public ultimatum that's part threat and part headline, who is it really for? Is it for the government being threatened, or is it for the audience back home? It really makes you think, what's the end game when you conduct diplomacy out in the open like this?